One minute, Helen is at the grocery store, her hands trembling as she counts out coupons for milk and eggs. The fluorescent lights hum, and for a second, she's a little girl again, sitting at the kitchen table with her mother, the scent of percolated coffee in the air. Her mom's hands, worn but steady, would smooth out each coupon, teaching her how to stretch $1. "Every little bit helps, sweetheart," she'd say. Now, standing in the checkout line, Helen feels the weight of that lesson, decades later. Back at their own kitchen table on that quiet Tuesday morning, an envelope sat stark against the floral placemat she'd picked out years ago. She saw it first. Before Frank even came downstairs, she walked by their wedding photo on the mantelpiece. "You know a storm is coming long before the first drop of rain. The air just changes." When Frank finally tore it open, the floor beneath them seemed to fall away. The company was gone. Bankrupt. But what Frank didn't know would haunt them both. To really feel the shock, you have to understand the life Frank and Helen had built. It was a life of quiet dignity. Frank started at the manufacturing plant when he was 25, bound to the other workers by a common belief in the future the company promised them. And Helen was the heart of it all. She remembered one rainy Saturday night back in the early 90s. The kids were asleep, and she and Frank were sharing a pot of coffee, dreaming aloud for the first time about what retirement would look like. A trip to see the Alaskan glaciers. Time to spoil the grandkids. It felt so real, so certain. "Why risk it in the market?" Frank would say. "We have the pension. It's guaranteed." That word, guaranteed, was a shield. A promise Helen held onto, even when her own mother had warned her years ago. "A company's books are a mystery, Helen. Don't ever trust them more than you trust what you can hold in your own hands." She dismissed it as old-fashioned worry. Then came the letter. While cleaning out a junk drawer weeks later, Helen found a holiday card from the company's CEO dated just last Christmas. It was signed, "With gratitude." The cheerful wishes now curdled in her stomach. The first sentence of the letter was a gut punch. "Due to the company's bankruptcy filing." Frank read it twice, his face draining of all color. Bankruptcy? How? He just handed her the letter. Her eyes found the same awful words, but it was the next line that threw them into the unknown. "Your pension plan has been terminated and will be transferred to the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, PBGC." The PBGC. What in the world was that? Frank looked at Helen, the paper trembling in his hand. I think we just lost everything." One morning, Helen went to get the mail and found another official-looking envelope. As she reached for it, she fumbled the bag of groceries she was carrying. A carton of eggs slipped and hit the concrete. One cracked, its bright yellow yolk spreading across the gray step. Broken, wasted. She just stared at it and whispered, "It was supposed to be enough?" But that wasn't the worst letter they'd receive. The days after were a blur. The relationship you thought you had is a business transaction. Frank would spend hours on the phone, listening to hold music, only to be connected to an automated voice that mispronounced his last name every single time. It was a small thing, but it made them feel invisible. "Frank, look," Helen said, a tiny glimmer of hope in her voice. She'd found the PBGC website. The PBGC is a federal agency created to protect our pensions. It's basically an insurance company for them. Maybe it's not so bad. But as Frank finally got through to a human, he started digging through online forums for other retirees. Just as Helen read aloud, it says it doesn't guarantee your full pension. There's a ceiling, and it gets reduced if you retire early, and for survivor benefits, for me. Before she could even process that, Frank hung up the phone, his face ashen. He turned his laptop screen towards her. The first post she saw read, "Welcome to the club. They cut mine by 40%. Good luck." The hope vanished. The tired-sounding representative Frank spoke to confirmed it. Based on his age, his years of service, and the survivor benefit for Helen, his monthly check would be cut by nearly a third. And then the final blow, the small health care stipend the company had promised them, a non-guaranteed benefit, gone. I watched him stare at the wall for hours, and I couldn't fix it. For the first time in our lives, I couldn't fix it. The weeks that followed were filled with a tense, anxious silence. One afternoon, Helen pulled out their old photo albums. There was a picture from a company picnic years ago. She was holding the CEO's wife's baby, both of them smiling, a trust that now felt like a cruel joke. Later that night, she quietly took the Alaska cruise folder from her desk drawer. For a moment, she hovered over a website, a last-minute deal flashing on the screen. A desperate urge to just book it, to feel in control. Then, with a heavy sigh, she closed the laptop and dropped the folder into the recycling bin. The toughest decision was the house. One afternoon, she watched from the porch as a younger couple toured the home, their laughter echoing in the empty living room. The woman laughed just like she once did. The day before the movers came, Helen found herself packing Frank's old work shirts. She held one up, the faint, familiar scent of motor oil clinging to the fabric, the smell of a lifetime of love and sacrifice. She folded it gently one last time before placing it in the donation box. But Frank and Helen were survivors. After the grief, a quiet, stubborn determination took root. Helen thought of her mother. While cleaning out a drawer, she found an old cookbook with a forgotten letter from her tucked inside. The faded ink read, "Never confuse loyalty with safety." That memory now guided her. "We thought we had a plan," Helen said to Frank one evening. "Turns out we had a hope." It was time to take back control. First, they found a certified financial planner. The advisor listened patiently, then slid a piece of paper across the desk. "I know this feels like a loss," she said softly, "but this is also the beginning of your power." The advisor drew 4 legs on the paper. "This is a retirement stool," she said. "One leg is the pension." She drew a crack in it. "This one just got shorter. The second is Social Security. The third is your 401k. The fourth can be other things." This brings us to the most important lesson. Never rely on a single source of retirement income. One night, unable to sleep, Helen found herself watching a YouTube video explaining something called an annual funding notice. She was stunned she'd never known what it was. Here's the path they built. First, treat your pension with healthy skepticism. Find your annual funding notice. If that funding percentage is consistently below 80%, that's a red flag. Second, max out the accounts you control. The money in your 401k or IRA is yours. Third, build a multi-legged stool for income. Create several streams so that if one leg gets shorter, the others keep the stool from tipping over. Finally, plan for health care. Helen, in a moment of quiet victory, spent a week on the phone and found a coupon system and a better Medicare supplement plan, saving them hundreds a month. It was a small win, but it was her win. A few weeks later, Helen saw a younger friend from church looking worried. Quietly, she walked her through how to find her own pension's funding status online, seeing the same fear in her friend's eyes that she once felt. "I'm not bitter," Helen told her, a new strength in her voice. "I'm better armed." The scariest part wasn't the letter. It was realizing no one was coming to fix it for us. Frank and Helen's journey is a powerful lesson. The old deal of lifelong loyalty for lifelong security is gone. Today, you must be the CEO of your own retirement. Helen said it best. Promises are printed. Planning is power. If someone you love still believes their pension is bulletproof, send them this video like it's a life preserver. To help, we've put together a simple guide to stress test your own retirement plan. Download it for free using the link in the description. And join our community. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because our next story is all about how a retired teacher loses her benefits because of a typo, and what she did next shocked the entire school board. In the end, this isn't just about a failed pension. It's a story about trust, betrayal, and resilience. In their new condo, they have a small patio. One sunny afternoon, they planted a new rose garden. Small bushes, in pots. Helen quietly named each one after a grandchild. Then she planted one more, a hardy yellow rose. She looked at it, then at Frank, and chuckled softly. She decided to name it Guarantee. This one? She's stubborn. She'll survive almost anything. It wasn't the retirement they were promised, but it's the one they chose, and that made all the difference. Hope is not a plan, but planning brings hope. Watch this next for another gripping tale of retirement gone wrong, plus the lesson you can't afford to miss.